Morgiana, while they were eating, made the necessary preparations for executing one of the boldest acts ever meditated. When Abdullah came for the dessert of fruit which she carried up, and as soon as he had taken the meat away, she placed 3 glasses by Ali Baba, and going out, took Abdullah with her to give Ali Baba more liberty of conversation with his guest. Kausé Hussein, or rather the captain of the robbers, thought he now had a favourable opportunity of being revenged on Ali Baba. "I will," said he to himself, "make the father and the son both drunk. The son, whose life I intend to spare, will not be able to prevent my stabbing his father to the heart. And while the slaves are at supper or asleep in the kitchen, I can make my escape over the gardens as before." Instead of going to supper, Morgiana, who had realized the intentions of the counterfeit Kausé Hussein, would not give him time to put his villainous design into execution. She dressed herself neatly with a suitable headdress like a dancer, and girded her waist with a silver gilt girdle, to which there hung a poniard with a hilt and guard of the same metal, and she put a handsome mask on her face. When she had thus disguised herself, she said to Abdullah, "Take your tabor, and let us go and divert our master and his son's guest, as we do sometimes when he is alone." Abdullah took his tabor and played all the way into the hall before Morgiana, who, when she came to the door, made a low obeisance with a deliberate air, in order to draw attention and by way of asking permission to exhibit her skill. Abdullah, seeing that his master had a mind to say something, left off playing. "Come in, Morgiana," said Ali Baba, "and let Kausé Hussein see what you can do, that he may tell us what he thinks of you." "But, sir," said he, turning towards his guest, "do not think that I put myself to any expense to give you this diversion, since these are my slave and my cook and housekeeper, and I hope you will not find the entertainment they give us disagreeable." Kausé Hussein, who did not expect this diversion after supper, began to fear he should not be able to improve the opportunity that he thought he had found, but he hoped, if he now missed his aim, to secure it another time, by keeping up a friendly correspondence with the father and the son. Therefore, though he could have wished Ali Baba would have declined the dance, he had the complaisance to express his satisfaction that what he saw pleased his host. As soon as Abdullah saw that Ali Baba and Kausé Hussein had done talking, he began to play on the tabor, and he accompanied it with an air, to which Morgiana, who was an excellent performer, danced in such a manner as would have created admiration in any other company besides that before which she now exhibited, among whom perhaps none but the false Kausé Hussein was in the least attentive to her, the rest having seen her so frequently. After she had danced several dances with equal propriety and grace, she drew the poniard, and holding it in her hand, began a dance, in which she outdid herself by the many different figures, the light movements, and the surprising leaps and wonderful exertions with which she accompanied it. Sometimes she presented the poniard to one person's breast, sometimes to another's, and oftentimes seemed to strike her own. At last, as if she was out of breath, she snatched the tabor from Abdullah with her left hand, and holding the dagger in her right, presented the other side of the tabor after the manner of those who get a livelihood by dancing and solicit the liberality of the spectators. Ali Baba put a piece of gold into the tabor, as did also his son, and Kausé Hussein, seeing that she was coming to him, had pulled his purse out of his bosom to make her a present. But while he was putting his hand into it, Morgiana, with a courage and resolution worthy of herself, plunged the poniard into his heart. Ali Baba and his son, shocked at this action, cried out aloud. "Unhappy wretch!" exclaimed Ali Baba. "What have you done to ruin me and my family?" "It was to preserve, not to ruin you," answered Morgiana. "For see here," continued she, opening the pretended Kausé Hussein's garment and showing the dagger, "what an enemy you had entertained. Look well at him, and you will find him to be both the fictitious oil merchant and the captain of the gang of 40 robbers. Remember, too, that he would eat no salt with you. And what would you have more to persuade you of his wicked design? Before I saw him, I suspected him as soon as you told me you had such a guest. I knew him, and you now find that my suspicion was not groundless." Ali Baba, who immediately felt the new obligation he had to Morgiana for saving his life a second time, embraced her. "Morgiana," said he, "I gave you your liberty, and then promised you that my gratitude should not stop there, but that I would soon give you higher proofs of its sincerity, which I now do by making you my daughter-in-law." Then, addressing himself to his son, he said, "I believe you, son, to be so dutiful a child that you will not refuse Morgiana for your wife. You see that Khaujeh Houssain sought your friendship with a treacherous design to take away my life, and if he has succeeded, there is no doubt but that he would have sacrificed you also to his revenge. Consider that by marrying Morgiana, you marry the preserver of my family and your own." The son, far from showing any dislike, readily consented to the marriage, not only because he would not disobey his father, but also because it was agreeable to his inclination. After this they thought of burying the captain of the robbers with his comrades, and did it so privately that nobody discovered their bones till many years after, when no one had any concern in the publication of this remarkable history. A few days afterward, Ali Baba celebrated the nuptials of his son and Morgiana with great solemnity. A sumptuous feast, and the usual dancing and spectacles, and he had the satisfaction to see that his friends and neighbours whom he invited had no knowledge of the true motives of the marriage, but that those who were not unacquainted with Morgiana's good qualities commended his generosity and goodness of heart. Ali Baba forbore, after this marriage, from going again to the robber's cave as he had done, for fear of being surprised from the time he had brought away his brother Cassim's mangled remains. He had kept away after the death of the 37 robbers and their captain, supposing the other 2, whom he could get no account of, might be alive. At the year's end, when he found that they had not made any attempt to disturb him, he had the curiosity to make another journey, taking the necessary precautions for his safety. He mounted his horse, and when he came to the cave and saw no footsteps of men or beasts, he looked upon it as a good sign. He alighted, tied his horse to a tree, and then approaching the entrance and pronouncing the words, "Open, Sesame," the door opened. He entered the cavern, and by the condition he found things in, judged that nobody had been there since the false Khaujeh Houssain, when he had fetched the goods for his shop, that the gang of 40 robbers was completely destroyed, and no longer doubted that he was the only person in the world who had the secret of opening the cave, so that all the treasure was at his sole disposal. Having brought with him a wallet, he put into it as much gold as his horse could carry, and returned to town. Afterward, Ali Baba took his son to the cave and taught him the secret which they handed down to their posterity, who, using their good fortune with moderation, lived in great honour and splendour.